Welcome to the Prophecy Club, where we study and research Bible prophecy. Our topic tonight is America's occult holidays. Now, I was raised celebrating these holidays and doing things like trimming jack-o'-lanterns, and I went on trick-or-treat, and I didn't understand what I was doing either, so don't feel bad when you hear some things tonight that drop your mouth open and say, I had no idea what I was doing and what I was really celebrating. But in fact, there's a lot of occult behind our holidays. Now, that's not to say that we should not celebrate the birth of Jesus or the resurrection of Jesus. I will celebrate my Lord's holidays. But there is a lot of occult that is wound in them, and he's going to be exposing that. Well, who is he, and has he earned the right to talk about that? As a matter of fact, he has. His family has been in the Illuminati for 189 years, 7 generations. He's a third-degree master witch. He was raised in an occultic Illuminati family. And I asked him, I said, Doc, have you read books? Have you researched this? Did you go down to the library to learn all of these things? And he said, no. He said, this is just the way we lived. This is the way we celebrated our God. And Christians are celebrating the wrong God in some of these occultic ceremonies. Our speaker also has been on and appeared in and consulted for the Oprah Winfrey Show, the Geraldo Vera Show, Hard Copy Inside Edition, Unsolved Mysteries. And there's one thing that I really like about Doc. He is really after winning souls, taking them out of the devil's kingdom and putting them in God's kingdom. He is a real soul winner, and he loves the Lord. Will you help me welcome Doc Marquis?
Many of us normally celebrate various holidays thinking that they're Christian or that they're American ones and that there's nothing wrong with them. What we are going to learn tonight is going to startle most of you. Hopefully it'll challenge you. If nothing else, this information has been kicking up a lot of dirt. I'm not kidding. I have seen reactions that I did not think was going to happen. I am talking about where people literally, I tell you, you'd almost think that they were going to get into a fight over this. But then again, as Christians, we're not supposed to be standing still anyways. We're supposed to be moving and serving the Lord. Now, I'm going to give you the very short version of how I got into the occult to begin with. When I say short, I'm not kidding. I have a ton of materials I need to present to you people. When I was 3 years old, I was brought to my dedication ceremony in the Illuminati. Now, this is not unusual. Many people here in the Christian community, you will take your children, you'll bring them to your various churches, your denomination, what have you, and you'll offer them up to God, correct? Well, in the occult world, they're doing the same thing, except they're offering their children up to Lucifer. Now, this is nothing unusual. It really isn't. For the occultists, this is a normal practice. When you look at anything in the occult, all you have to do is compare it to the Bible. You're going to find out just about everything in the occult was either reversed or perverted from the Holy Scriptures. In the end, you're going to find out that Lucifer has never had an original idea yet. All he did was create a war and think he was going to become God, and we all know what happened then. For the next 10 years, I was put into what's known as the outer court. Now, this is best understood as the Illuminati's version of a seminary. This is where you're taught all the rites, the rituals, the 8 nights of human sacrifice, spellcasting, alchemy, so on and so forth. So by the time I was 13, at the end of another ceremony, this was my initiation ceremony now, they brought forth a book that was made out of lamb's hide. It's known as the Book of the Dead in the occult. They brought forth a quilled feather and then a ceremonial knife called athame. They sliced my arm wide open, passed me that quilled feather. I had to dip it in my own blood and sign my new occult name in this book. This made me one of them. Now, isn't it interesting how in the book of Revelation we find out that in heaven there was an angel signing our name in the Lamb's Book of Life? Again, just another occult counterfeit. For the next 4 years, I was going through the ranks like all other Illuminists, to where by the time I was 17, I became initiated as a High Druid priest, or what's best understood as a third-level witch or a master witch. At that point, it gave me authority over a particular region. Now, a region is a governing area in which, in this case, the third-level witch had full authority over. We had a little bit more than 1,000 illuminists within this area at the time. A year and a half later, I went into the United States Army under orders from my bosses in the Illuminati. Now, this was not my idea. Okay, don't get me wrong, you know, but I did not go in for patriotic reasons back then. I would do it now, but the Illuminati, since the mid-60s, have had an ongoing plan in which they were sending in hundreds and thousands of their own people to where they wanted to infiltrate every single military base around the world. Once these bases were infiltrated, they would start setting up their own covens. Now, the reason they were doing this was so that they could recruit key people from the military into their own ranks. And this would help them out tremendously. Let's say you were into communications, and I initiated you into the coven. Well, because you had access to communications, you're one of us, I now have access to communications. If you had access to supplies, I had anything I wanted because you were now one of us. I had access to what you had access to. And unfortunately, the Illuminati is too good at what they do because as of April 1978, if you check the Army Chaplain's Handbook on Religious Requirements, you will find out that just about every single major occult religion is listed in it. We're talking Satanism, witchcraft, you name it, it's just about there. And it's all legal. They're federally recognized, they have tax exemption, they have priesthood status, and it's all perfectly legal to be practiced on every single military base throughout the world now. And you know, there's nothing we can legally do to stop it. Of course, we weren't going to be told that this is what was really going on, but nevertheless, they did it. Well, to make a very long story short, when I was at Fort Lewis, Washington, a young man, I didn't know him too well, he was just an acquaintance, walked up to me and started a conversation. Shortly after that, he had to leave, but he asked me if I wanted to go to church with him on Sunday. You know, and back then, of course, there was no way you were going to get me to set foot in any church. You know, but I have to tell you the truth. Let me tell you, for the next 3 years, my life literally was a nightmare. Because no matter where I went, and no matter how far I went, there were some born-again Christians just waiting to witness to me. You know? I mean, they were falling out of the trees, jumping out of the bushes, and I am not kidding when I tell this is the truth. I actually saw one jump out of a moving vehicle once to try to witness to me, but I ran faster that day than that Christian did. To wrap it up, as I was saying, I have a lot to present, but at the end of those 3 years, I finally saw what I was doing in light of what the Christians were saying all along. On April 15th, 1979, I went into a Christian church as a sold-out slave of Satan's, and I left as a born-again child of the King. And for the last 18.5 years, I've been running a ministry called Christians Exposing the Occult. We're in there trying to get people out of the occult. There's more going on nowadays than most Christians would realize. And it's sad. It really saddens me at times because we're the only ones who actually can be used of God to get these people out. And so many times, we just don't seem to be doing it. What we are going to be doing now, as I stated before, we're going to be going over certain holidays. Just about every single holiday you can think of, and we're going to get into the origins of all this. I am hoping that at the end, this challenges you. Not to go out and have me shot, but challenges you as a Christian, your conviction, your dedication to Christ. There are 8 nights of human sacrifice on the Illuminati's calendar. Starting from the top, December 21st is the night of Yule. It moves down to Imbolg, Ostara, Beltane, Litha, Lughnasadh, Mabon, and finally Samhain. Now the reason December 21st is at the top is because according to the Celtic calendar, This is the calendar that the Illuminati uses to this very day. The last day of the old year is October 31st. It begins on November 1st, the new year. Now you're going to find out this will have great significance. We will be getting to that. As we look through these nights, you're going to find interesting things are happening to them. If you recall in Genesis chapter 1, I believe it's verse 16, the reason God put the sun, the stars, the planets up in heaven was for us to measure the seasons by and to watch out for certain signs. This was the very specific purpose God put them there. And look at this. The winter solstice, the spring equinox, the summer solstice, and the autumnal equinox. Those are the seasons we're supposed to measure on the calendar. And yeah, look at what the occultists did. Already they started perverting it by putting those nights of human sacrifice right on them. And mind you, those 4 nights that line up with the 4 seasons, those are the minor ones. That's to say, almost as if to say, well, God is so minor in his plans that we're not even going to bother to recognize them with the major holidays. Nevertheless, these holidays constitutes already a perversion of our calendar. And you're going to see just how bad this has really gotten. Starting with December 21st. From December 21st down to February 1st, there was a 6-week period. From February 1st to March 21st, there was a 7-week period. Then notice how the pattern keeps repeating itself. 6, 7, 6, 7, all the way down. And there is a very good reason for this. You will also note that those groupings of 6 and 7 constitute sets of 13s, 4 13s to be specific. And you're going to see this pattern repeated as we go along. How many people have heard of numerology before? Just raise your hand, please. Right. We all know that numerology is where you take numbers and you assign them to specific letters. There was another system in the occult that's known as gematria. Gematria will give you the definition to all the different numbers. For instance, 19 is the number for faith, 35 is the number for hope, so on and so forth. The ones we want to concentrate on is the number 6, 7, and 13. 6 is the number for man, 7 is the number for God, and 13 is the number for depravity and rebellion. It's very important to remember this because when we look at these calendars, you're going to find out that by using this numerical pattern, what they are actually stating is that through depravity and rebellion, they're placing man above God. And isn't this exactly what had happened in the great war in heaven when Lucifer and his followers were thrown out? He wanted to be God. It was through rebellion that he was thrown out. And if you remember, the scripture even tells us, for witchcraft is as the sin of rebellion. On this next transparency, we're going to add a couple things. Notice Yule, December 21st at the top. Right next to it, you're going to see Christmas. After that, we drop down to Groundhog's Day, which is on another night of human sacrifice, this one being in bold. May Day on the human night sacrifice of Beltane, and Halloween on the human night sacrifice of Samhain. These are just some of the holidays, some of the major ones that we celebrate. And can you see how they're already lining up with these occult Sabbaths? And you're going to find out that there was a reason. As we go through this, you will also note we're going to add different ones to it. This time, we will add Inauguration Day, January 20th, Valentine's Day, February 14th, April Fool's Day, Independence Day, July 4th, July 19th, 1996, which was the Olympic Games, you will note that the next Olympic Games is going to be on the human night sacrifice of Mabon in the year 2000. Now, there was something strange going on with the Olympic Games. How many of you can recall the way that they started the 1992 Olympic Game openings? Does anyone recall what they did? They had an archer take an arrow, and he had it lit, and he shot it into the air. It arced over and landed in the traditional Olympic bowl. This reminded me of the story of Prometheus, how he stole fire from the gods. Take a good look at this next transparency. You will notice that red spiraling object on top of the tower. That is the new Olympic bowl. Do you know what the papers were calling that? That was being referred to as the Olympic cauldron. And it was being properly referred to as a cauldron for some very specific reasons. First of all, just by looking at it, you can tell that this cauldron is a red one. It had to be red because the first family of the Illuminati, the head of it to this very day, Lord James Rothschild himself, his name Rothschild from the German means red shield. Second of all, you will notice how that cauldron is spiraling down and inwardly. There's a very good reason for that. When witches, especially those in the Illuminati, are concluding a lot of their ceremonies, they will dance in a spiraling formation. The reason it spirals inward is because they're bringing together, supposedly, great metaphysical energies to where at the end of the ceremony they will release all this through the cone of power, and then it will go out to do whatever they want it to do. It's for this reason that they do that spiraling, because of the spiral dance. Those jet flames up there were 18 of them. The reason there was 18 because it constitutes the triplicity of their favorite number, 6 plus 6 plus 6. That's why there was 18. Now, in the occult world, there are two gods, the god and the goddess. Semiramis is the goddess. Her son/husband, Nimrod, is the god. Now, when you see the crescent moon, this is the oldest symbol that recognizes the goddess, or Semiramis. When you see the five-pointed star, you're looking at what's known as a pentagram. This is the symbol for Nimrod. Now, when you see the crescent moon and the five-pointed star in the center of it, you are looking at the oldest sign in existence that symbolizes both God and goddess, Semiramis and Nimrod. If you will look right here, you will notice this is a crescent moon. And you will see the five-pointed star sitting right in it. If we were to take that out, you would see another crescent moon here with a second star right above it. And then after that, the last crescent moon under the bottom with that yellow star up there. This is the new emblem for the Olympic game. As I stated before, the next Olympic game is going to happen September 21st in the year 2000, Sydney, Australia. I can only imagine what they're going to do this time. I don't expect it to get any better. I'm expecting it to get a lot worse. There is a reason why these days were put in the specific pattern they were. Starting at the top. When we look at Inauguration Day, January 20th, this is when your president takes his oath of office. Do you know originally it was never that? It used to be November. The Illuminati had it moved up purposely to where it fit the pattern. And we're going to go with that pattern right now. You will notice Inauguration Day is exactly 13 days before the human night sacrifice of Imbolg. Valentine's Day is exactly 13 nights after the human night sacrifice of Imbolg. Easter, I will get into that afterwards. They have to use astrology to figure out when Easter is going to be every year. I'll explain that afterwards. All Fool's Day, or April Fool's Day, is exactly 13 weeks from the beginning of your calendar. Independence Day is exactly 13 days after the human night sacrifice of Litha. Last year's Olympic game was exactly 13 days before the human night sacrifice of Lunarsad. And if you notice, the next one is going to be exactly on the night of a human sacrifice. Are you beginning to see this numerical pattern? How all these 13s are lining up? Let's face it, we can't deny the mathematics of this. All you have to do is just sit down at the calendar and count. It will point out these are all separated by 13s. And there are reasons. The main reason, at least for this alignment, is because every single one of these holidays are occultic in origin. We're going to be able to, Lord willing, go over the majority of them tonight. Starting with Christmas. Now, I am very well aware that, of course, most people in the Christian realm, just about anyone for that matter of fact, believes Christmas has everything to do with the birthday of Jesus Christ, correct? However, when you look at the scriptures, there is no way, first of all, Jesus Christ could have been born on December 25th, as they like to state, because the Bible tells us that, if you look in the book of Luke, that the shepherds were still out in the field tending to their flock. To this very day, Judaic tradition teaches us they don't bring the sheep in from the fields until the second week of October. Christ could not have been born in December then. It had to have been right before that event had happened. If you have your Bibles, turn to Jeremiah chapter 10. There's an interesting event that's going on here. And then you tell me what this sounds like. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. Get that one memorized, folks. Learn not to do what these occultists are doing. What are they doing? Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth the tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen, with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. That's a Christmas tree. You go to the forest, chop it down with the axe, bring it home, nail it or put it in that little upright stand, take gold and silver trimmings, deck it all around, voila, you have a Christmas tree. We think this tree is supposed to be part of the birthday of Christ. How? That one's still a mystery to me, but I have to tell you, when you look at the occult religion, you're going to find out that there are very specific trees that are very sacred in the occult realm. Just a couple examples I put up here. The oak tree is the most sacred of all the trees for the Druids. The Druids were the high priests of the Celtic tribe. As a matter of fact, the name Druid from the ancient Gaelic means the men of oak. The Egyptian, well, they had plenty of palm trees around there. That became a very sacred tree to their god Ra. And of course in Scandinavia, where Odin was supposedly the chief god of the entire pantheon, he wanted the fir tree. Now, these people in the occult nowadays, they are still taking gold and silver decorations, putting it on their trees. A lot of them are taking cookies, putting them on the trees also after they've baked them. They will take chestnuts, tie traditional Christmas color ribbon around them, or I should say Yule ribbons. See, you call Christmas what it is. In the occult, it's properly known as Yule. We'll get to that. But they will take the traditional colors, either red or green, tied around chestnuts, and hang it from the tree. This is how just, some of the items became part of your so-called Christmas holiday. It is also, if you remember, the five-pointed star, the pentagram, is the oldest symbol that represents Nimrod. See, in the occult world, from November 1st all the way through April 30th, the god is in charge. He will rule over the world for those 6 months. After that, the goddess takes over. At this point of the season, he is known as the winter god. He is also commonly referred to as the horned god, the stag god, the god of the hunt, so on and so forth. It is for this reason, his symbol, the five-pointed star now, you've been placing it on top of these Christmas trees. How many of us have done this in the past? Be honest, yeah. We've been putting those on top of our trees. In the old days, of course, what they used to do, they would take candles, put them on the branches of the trees and light them. They would also take these same candles and put them on their windowsills. But you got to remember, this time of the year, the nighttime is longer than the daytime, correct? What this candle does is send out light. Now this is according to the occult belief now. Sends these lights out from the homes to where the winter god can see them, and he will come down and bless the people in that household. These lights are welcoming back the winter god himself. But of course, nowadays, we've modernized this, and we have these multicolored lights that blink on and off, and these fake candles we put in the windowsill, but it's still the exact same thing. You put those on your trees, you put those on top of your windowsills, you're doing exactly what those people in the occult are doing to this very day. You're welcoming in the occult winter god. Then, of course, there are the various plants that we are using to celebrate the season. We've seen mistletoe before. It's a green plant with white berries that are very, very poisonous. The mistletoe is a very sacred plant in the occult world. It's a fertility plant. It's for this reason that the custom of when you walk under the mistletoe, you're supposed to kiss. That's what it's symbolizing, the rites of fertility. The Christmas wreath. It is circular in its design, and it was done so for a reason. And I'm going to try to be as tactful about this as possible. But if the truth be known, this, first of all, represents the cycle of life and the cycle of reincarnation. The reason that is so is because, occultically speaking, again, this is another fertility symbol, because it represents the female sexual organs. And it's for this reason why in the occult world there is still placed candles around it, because it symbolizes the male phallic symbol, the unification of both of them. And of course, we've seen the holly plant before. This is, again, another fertility plant. It's a minor one in the occult, but this one is still used to celebrate the Yule season in the occult world. And of course, a lot of us honestly believe that these holidays are harmless, that there's nothing wrong with them. Well, as we continue along, how many people if this is really a harmless holiday, could it honestly right now explain the origins of Santa Claus? Let's face it, Santa Claus, just like these holidays, just didn't fall out of heaven. They had to have come somewhere. In the occult world, remember, as I stated before, the winter god is known as the stag god. Through the myth that are found in the occult world, Satan is actually trying to convince his followers that he is like God. See, God has three qualities that, of course, no one else has. He's omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. He sees all, he knows all, he is all-powerful. This is God, just part of God. When we look at the characteristics of Santa Claus, how many of us remember Santa Claus is also omnipotent, according to the legends? Do you know he can tell you at any given time who's been bad and who's been good? And according to one popular story, Santa Claus learned how to pick up snow and make it into a snowball. And this snowball is actually used as a crystal ball. He actually learned to do this through the winter god. He's got the power to look through this crystal ball, use it as a scrying device, and divine who's been good and who's been bad. As far as him being everywhere, well, yes, according to the myths, he also has the ability to be like God and be omnipresent. Because according to the story, he can circumnavigate the world in hours and give everyone what they deserve. And if you look at the Scandinavian legend, especially where we get into Odin, according to the ancient myths, Odin took out one of his eye and threw it in the well of knowledge. So he himself would gain wisdom. Now, aren't these the three things that make up God? All-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present. This is exactly what Satan is telling his followers through this particular occult holiday. And mind you, why do you think they have reindeers in this story? They symbolize the stag god. These are stag creatures, aren't they? And there's 8 of them for a very specific reason. 8 in gematria stands for new beginnings. However, 8 is the only number when you place it on its side becomes an occult symbol. And that is the symbol for infinity, the infinite yearly return of the stag god. Why do you think Rudolph, has a red nose? It's the traditional colors. In the celebration of Yule, in the occult world, there is always red and green. These are the 2 colors that are used during that time of the year. The mistletoe, holly, wreath, the pine trees, the fir trees, all of them are green. The holly berries, the bows, Santa's clothes, Rudolph's nose, all that is red. You people didn't create this stuff. It was already there. All that happened is that it was brought into your American calendar and it became Americanized and Christianized. That's how you get this. So the question is, whose birthday is December 25th then, if it's not Jesus Christ? Semiramis and Nimrod, the 2 original co-founders of the occult world, had a child. He was known as Tammuz. Tammuz was born on December 25th. 4 days before December 25th is when the night of Yule begins. It was purposely brought to December 25th for a reason, as far as Christmas goes. It was done for a reason. Back during the early Roman Empire days, when you had the first popes, of course, we know historically speaking, the first one was Constantine. He took over Rome in 313 AD and then established the Council of Trent and declared what was known as the Edict of Milan in 323 AD, to where he started what he wanted now, what he called a state religion. Now, Constantine, and this is historically, you can prove this easily, was a practicing pagan. He was an occultist. He took these pagan occult rituals and holidays, put them in this new state religion, and if you would, candy-coated it with an air of Christianity. The reason he did that, because he knew the pagans would recognize this for what it really was and still come in. December 25th, as I stated before, is the birthday of Tammuz. What was also going on during the Roman empires in those days, on December 25th now, was the day of Saturnalia. To the Romans, the head of all the gods was the god known as Saturn. This festival to Saturn was marked with a couple very specific events. First of all, there would be great banquets. Second of all, people would be drinking till they could drink no longer. Third, they would be giving out presents to one another. Now think about this. Don't we have our traditional Christmas banquets to this very day? Aren't we having wassail and other different types of drinks during this holiday? Aren't we exchanging presents on December 25th? All this you get because of the occult. When you think about it, what would any of this have to do with the birthday of Christ anyways? Even some of these traditions, and I do mean traditions, we've been taught tradition and not scriptures. Tradition tells us that there was 3 wise men that made it to the manger, correct? Scripture tells us those wise men never made it to the manger. They never made it till Christ was 2 years old and he was in his Father's workshop. That's what the Bible tells us. Tradition tells us otherwise. Tradition also tells us, well, this is the birthday of Jesus Christ. We have to make up our minds if we're going to go by tradition or if we're going to go by Scripture. As I stated before, this is going to strike home, and it may hit some of you very hard. But the truth is, as born-again Christians, we have to remember Jeremiah chapter 10 tells us we are not supposed to learn the way of the heathens. You will find out when Joshua was bringing the children of Israel into the promised land, the reason God threw all those people and those nations out was because they were all practicing the occult religions. God named the 9 reasons why they were being cast out of those nations, and every single one of those reasons, you look at them, were occultic ones. This is how evil, how foul this stuff is in the eyes of God. And yet, for some reason, we honestly think that there's nothing wrong with this stuff, that if we just say, well, God, you know my heart, you know that I'm honoring you. How are we honoring God if we're doing it through occult holidays? I can't see how we honestly can say we are honoring God if we're doing it the exact same way those people in the occult are doing it to this very day. And yet, of course, there's a lot of other holidays that we think, well, let's put it this way, that we have Christianized. And we have actually fooled ourselves into believing are Christian. The next one would be Easter. This one, let's face it, this one is extremely popular. This one is supposed to be the resurrection of Jesus Christ, correct? And yet, you're going to find out Easter and the resurrection of Jesus Christ have absolutely nothing in common. Now, if you remember in Genesis, at the Tower of Babel, and this is the classic rendition of the Tower of Babel itself, the people there had sinned against God. They formed a one-world government under a one-world people, under a one-world language, under a one-world tongue, under a one-world religion, which was the occult. The co-founders of this occult religion was Nimrod and Semiramis. God did not want this to happen. So in order to get these people to finally break away from this and their sin, he confused their language. The people went throughout the entire world. Now think about this for a second. When these people left, do you think that they forgot anything? Do you think that they suddenly forgot their occult religion? Do you think they finally that they forgot where they came from and what they did? Of course they didn't. When we take a look at the next great empire that came about after Babylon, we see something very interesting here. Now down here is a great pyramid of Giza. It's on the Giza Plateau in Egypt. But if you look at the top one, that is what's known as a step pyramid. It was one of the earliest pyramids ever built. It was built by the pharaoh Djoser. Isn't that the exact formation that they were building the Tower of Babylon with? Something very interesting is happening to us both historically and prophetically. It all started in Babylon as far as our civilization goes. A one-world religion, one-world people under a one-world language, one financial system, so on and so forth. It's going to come around, and according to the scriptures, we're going to have Babylon all over again. We're going to have this one-world order under a one-world people, under a one-world occult religion. We're doomed to repeat history because we did not learn the mistakes of it. We have really gone off the mark. But as I stated before, you will notice, same formation. What is even more interesting, how many people have heard of the European Common Market? And that they're trying to create a one-world monetary system known as the European Unit. Here is their official logo. What is that? Right, that's the Tower of Babylon again. Look at the inscription down here, Europe. Many tongues, one voice. They want to reverse and undo what God did. God took one voice and turned it into many languages. They want to take those many languages and unite them under one voice, just one people again. The five-pointed stars up there, those are inverted pentafors. Those are the common symbols that are used by those people in Satanism. But there is also something very peculiar going on here. I want you to pay very close attention to this next transparency, and you'll see why they're in the formation they're at. You look at the very top of this next transparency, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about. The oldest symbol in existence for Nimrod is the pentaphor. Notice it is above or crowning Babylon itself. This is completely telling you that the occult religion is going to be the head over this new Babylon. We're going back to where we started. If you remember in your scriptures, when Paul was going through Rome, Greece, the whole empire, well, Paul himself was not noted as a quiet man. If nothing else, Paul himself, let's face it, got into a bit of trouble. Thrown into prison at least 3 times. They tried to stone him to death. They definitely ran him out of town many times. And there was one particular event, if you people will recall it in the scriptures, where they went into, they actually were trying to get into this one temple and trying to tell these people, you're not supposed to be worshiping these false gods. And if you remember, this was in the city of Ephesus. These people were worshiping a goddess known as Diana. Remember how at the end they were shouting for hours afterwards, great is Diana of the Ephesians? They were doing this for a reason, but if you look at this list over here, Semiramis and Nimrod, their names are the only thing that change in the entire occult world. The practices are the same, but because the people went to Egypt, to Mesopotamia, to the Median-Persian Empire, to Greece, to Rome, to Great Britain, and finally to America, the names were changed because of culture. The practices are still the same. Remember, when it finally got to Egypt, the sun god, which is what Nimrod was, is now known as Ra, the sun god. The moon goddess is now Isis. That's all that happened. The names changed, but the beliefs remained the same. When Paul finally got to Ephesus, the goddess that they were shouting about is Diana. This is one of the oldest statues that represents the goddess Diana. This is who they were making a big stink about back then. They were standing up in that temple for hours praising and worshiping this statue. Now remember, as I told you before, Semiramis is a fertility goddess. It is for this reason that you will notice that Diana is a many-breasted figure. It is still a fertility goddess. It did not change. The only thing that changed was the name. Again, if we go to the Roman belief system, their empire, we will look at Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. And she is also a fertility goddess. These are the pagan people that the people in Egypt were worshiping. Now, why are they worshiping a fertility goddess? What's going on? How did this bring about Easter? According to those legends, which are still found in the occult world today, after the first year when Semiramis had died, a giant multicolored egg had fallen out of heaven and landed in the Euphrates River. It washed ashore and landed in a pile of wicker reed. You've seen wicker furniture before, correct? We know how strong and durable that stuff can be. Out of this egg, Semiramis, in her reincarnated form as the spring goddess, broke out and would bless those followers of hers. Now, first of all, this is where you get the multicolored egg, the Easter egg, from. This is also where you get the Easter basket from. And the reason you get the word Easter is because of the Babylonian. In the Babylonian Talmud, if you check on the name of Easter, it is properly spelled I-S-H-T-A-R. It got confused, a lot of people got this confused, with the Egyptian rendition of it. A lot of people thought it was Ishtar. But if you check the original transliteration, the Babylonian one, it is still pronounced Easter to this very day. That is just another name for Semiramis, the moon goddess, or the fertility goddess of the occult world. Now, how many people, be honest, have ever attended a sunrise service? Just raise your hand. If you've ever gone, of course we have. Why? Do you know there's nothing in the Bible to base that on? Scripture, whenever it talked about the dawn, the twilight, sunrise, sundown, the night, the dark, the light, the day, it was mentioned. God knows time. He knows when it's light and dark. He put it in the Bible. When you look at the book of John, and the Apostle Peter ran to the sepulchre to check upon the body of Christ, it states, and while it was yet dark, not light, not a sunrise, it was dark out. The reason we're doing it, having these silly sunrise services, is because of the occult. You see, during those times in Babylon and Egypt, they wanted to welcome in the spring goddess, get her here as quick as possible. What they would do, they would go to the Temple of Babylon. The priest would actually have new white robes made for the welcoming in of their Queen of Heaven, their spring goddess. The priestesses would have these hats that actually looked like baby bonnets made for the ceremony, and they would all go to the temple. And it is for this reason why, ladies, you are getting your Easter bonnets, and gentlemen, you're getting your brand new Easter suits. That's where that part of the belief came in. But the reason these people, what they were doing, they would go to the temple, they would hold this ceremony to welcome in the spring goddess. The reason they did it at sunrise is because once the ceremony was over, they could all disperse throughout the land, and whoever would find the new egg that fell out of heaven to where the spring goddess emerged out of, they would be the person who would receive that blessing from their goddess. That's why you have a sunrise service. Semiramis and Nimrod had a son, as I've told you before, named Tammuz. Now, Tammuz was nowhere near as good a hunter as his father, Nimrod, was, because when he was 40 years old, he was killed by a wild boar out on the hunt. Now, an interesting event was going on in the book of Ezekiel. In Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 14, let me set this for you. God has taken Ezekiel and he's showing him visions and different things and taken him around. And at this particular point right now, this is what it states. This is what God is doing with Ezekiel. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Tammuz now, the son of Nimrod. The reason they were doing this ceremony, what they were involved in, now remember, this is in the house of God himself now. These occultists were practicing a very ancient ritual. They would fast, they would weep, they would wail, they would give things up because their god Tammuz was dead. And you know what? This is where you get Lent from. Lent is 40 days in totality. Those days represent 1 year for every year of Tammuz's life. 40 days for 40 years. Are the people not weeping, wailing, they're fasting and giving things up on Lent? That's exactly what they were doing here. And yet, we think this is supposed to be part of a wonderful Christian thing that celebrates the resurrection of Christ. And you know why you have your traditional Easter ham? Occultically speaking, when you when you eat that Easter ham, you are symbolically killing that thing which killed the god Tammuz. That's why it's an Easter ham. We have brought all these things into the church, and we think of them as harmless Christian holidays, and there's really nothing harmless about them. Now, if you remember, the goddess is coming back during this time of the year. She's known as the spring goddess, and this is a typical drawing of the spring goddess. You will notice that the sun is behind her because she is beginning to come into power. Notice how she's holding a cute little Easter bunny and all that. It's a cutesy little scene. But tell me, What does a bunny have to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ? I mean, I would like just one person for once, I don't care if it's a theologian, a doctor who has his doctorate in divinity, I don't care who it is. Could someone in the Christian world explain the Easter Bunny to me? I can tell you how it came into the Christian world through the occult. North American Indians commonly used a totem pole and carved animal faces in it to depict various gods of their belief, correct? They were doing that back in Babylon. Where do you think they got it from? Remember, this stuff spread throughout the world. Eventually, it had to end up in North America. The oldest symbol to recognize the fertility goddess, that of Semiramis, is the bunny. The reason it is the bunny, because the bunny is the fastest procreating creature that we know of. That's why it was the Easter rabbit, or the Easter bunny. That's where you get it from. This is straight from the occult. And if you don't want to believe me, go to an occult bookstore or to a witch's shop or something like that. They'll explain this to you. If you don't want to believe me, ask them about why a rabbit. What's up with the spring goddess? What is with the name Easter? They'll tell you the truth about this, especially if you try to get them to believe that you're interested in it. Be interested in for finding out the truth. Don't be interested in because you want to join. You know, but this has been going on and on and on for thousands of years. We have just simply taken all this and have Christianized it. For some reason, we as Christians have allowed this into the church. Now, I will tell you, the deception that the Bible warned us about would be very strong. It specifically stated that it would be so strong that if it was possible, it would deceive the very elect of God itself. And I think this is what we allowed to happen. You're being given the truth of what's going on in the occult and how these things became Americanized and Christianized. Once you've been given the entire information, you become responsible to God for it, don't you? Mm-hmm. Hosea stated, "My people die for a lack of knowledge." How many of you are willing to not just live for Christ, but live for Christ as a responsible, sold-out servant of His? This is what you have to ask yourself. On this next holiday, which you commonly call Halloween, in the occult world they call it Samhain. Now, when you look at the name, it looks as if it's saying Samhain or something like that. No, 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 no. This is properly pronounced in the ancient Gaelic as Samhain. Samhain, according to occult tradition, was the Lord of the Dead. Now, around 900 BC, a very fierce nomadic people came into the areas of what used to be known as Gaul, Saxony, Brittany. We know it now as the British Isle, and of course it eventually went through Scotland, Ireland, and the rest of the surrounding areas. These people were known as the Celts. Now the Celtic people, they were so fierce and so barbaric that twice they held off the famous Roman legion and extracted heavy tribute from Rome itself. They literally held all power from 900 BC to approximately 900 AD in that area. The Celtic Lord of the Dead, Samhain, is just another name, Samhain, for Nimrod. You study all the myths, all the occult myths of Samhain. He is also a stag god. Has horns just like the stag god of the occult world that is so constant. But this particular time of the year, October 29th through the 31st, those 3 days constitute what's known as Samhain. Everyone thinks Halloween is just a one-night thing, October 31st, but it is not. See, in the occult world, this is a 3-day fire festival. It lasts from the 29th through the 31st. During the time when the Druid priest held power in Great Britain, now the Druids held all power. You couldn't get married without their permission. You couldn't hold any type of official title in the clan without their permission. You couldn't even attend any of their religious ceremonies without their permission. They literally held power over all life and death, and you're really going to find out how in this example. During the nights of Samhain, the Druids would gather at these giant megalithic stone circles. One of the most common known stone circle is, of course, Stonehenge. Just about everyone has seen Stonehenge at one time or another, be it in picture or if they were actually there. Now, Stonehenge, as I said, it's a megalithic crop circle. Megalithic crop circle, that's the UFOs. Wrong subject, but we could always get there. This is a megalithic stone circle. It served 3 specific functions. First of all, it was a temple complex. Second of all, it served as an astrological observatory. Third, it served as a place of human sacrifice. Archaeologists have already unearthed, underneath Stonehenge, over 4,000 human skeletal remains. And that's just Stonehenge. There are hundreds of these throughout the British Isles. This one, believe it or not, is small compared to some of the others. The one in Avesbury is over a mile in circumference. This is just a small one. And there's over 4,000 dead human sacrifices underneath it. You multiply that by X amount of hundreds of these stone circles, and I think you'll understand what the Druids were all about and why they were so greatly feared by the common folk. During the time of Samhain, the Druids, in this example, they would meet at Stonehenge. They had a giant cauldron, a black pot, that they would fill with what you would best understand as an apple cider-like substance. They would light the pot, and then all the Druid priests would go out throughout the countryside. They would go to various mansions, to castles, to people of nobility such as the earls, marquises, dukes, what have you. They would walk up to the front door of these places, and you want to know what they would yell out? Trick or treat, exactly. Now see, trick or treat is a 2-part expression that literally sent waves and waves and waves of panic throughout the people who ever heard it. You see, if the Lord of the Manor cooperated with the Druids, he would take one of his own servants or one of his own household members, someone of his own family, and pass them over to the Druids to be used as a human sacrifice offering that night. The Druids would leave you a treat for your cooperation. They would take a pumpkin that was previously hollowed out and filled with human fat. They would leave it on the front door step and light it. This served as a water protection from all the demonic forces that would be unleashed that night. Now this is where we get into the trick. If you did not cooperate with the Druids, they would take blood from a dead body that they had actually been dragging around and paint the 6-pointed star with a circle around it. This is known as a hexagram, from the Latin hexer for 6. This is the foulest, the most evil of all the symbols in the occult world. I don't care what anyone else tells you. You need that symbol if you're going to summon a demon to this plane of existence. The Druids would paint that in human blood on the people's front door. Someone would die between those nights because of the demonic forces that were summoned. 4 or 5 hours later, the Druids would all return, in this example, as I stated, back to Stonehenge. Once they got back to Stonehenge, they would take these people and put them in these cages. One particular cage is of great interest. They would take those wicker reeds. Remember how we had talked about those before, how the Easter egg landed in wicker? And it's a very, very durable material. What the Druids would do a week before Samhain began, they would send the Celtic warriors out throughout the countryside where they would gather up thousands of these wicker reeds. Once they brought them back, they formed a giant wicker man. The wicker man looked something similar to this. It stood approximately 25 to 30 feet in height and was just intercrossing wicker reed to where it formed the effigy of a human man. This would usually be 2 to 3 levels in height and have cages running throughout it. The Druids, once they brought back all the human sacrifice offerings from trick-or-treating, they would throw them into those cages and tie them. Now, if by some chance they ran out of space in the wicker man, they had these regular square cages made out of wicker that they had set aside just in case. Now, this is where the Druids now would have their version of fun. They would take approximately 12 prisoners, 12 people now who were going to be used as human sacrifice offerings, and line them up in a single row in front of that cauldron. They would take an apple, throw it into the cauldron, and say, if you can take that in between your teeth on the first try, you will be set free immediately. Who would do that? Raise your hand. Who would try to grab that apple in between their teeth so that they could be set free? Who would do it? Raise your hand, please. There's only one problem, though. That cauldron has been boiling away for 4 to 5 hours now. The boiling temperature of liquid is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, who would do it? No volunteers? You? You know, you'd be the only one then who would have a chance of living. You see, if you didn't try for it, you were going to end up as a human sacrifice offering anyways. This was your only way out. Every single person there did take the chance, except with dire consequences, let's face it. After they plunged their heads into that boiling liquid, their faces, their neck, and I don't even know how much of their chest and back literally was just melting to where they would be permanently disfigured and unrecognizable. Many of them went blind because of the 212-degree liquid that was burning their eye sockets away. Many end up as partially or permanently deaf because of the damage that was done to their ear canal and the damage that was done to their speech and to their respiratory system because all that liquid was funneling down their throats while they were trying to grab that apple. And yes, this is where you got that cutesy little game, bobbing for apples. Now, if you did grab that apple on the first try in between your teeth, they held to their promise. They let you go some life afterwards. But if you didn't do it, they would throw you on the ground and behead you right there on the spot. Samhain is the highest night of human sacrifice on the Illuminati's calendar. And the reason it is because this is, at this time of the year, what's known as a crossroad. It ends the old year and begins the new one. Now, all crossroads in the occult are sacred. Another example would be where the beach begins and where the beach ends and the ocean begins. That's a crossroad. That's considered a sacred spot. All crossroads are sacred. Now, during this time of the year, it is believed that those souls that had died from who knows how long ago, because the veil that's separating the third and fourth dimension are supposed to be at their thinnest, those departed souls can cross over and visit their loved ones for the night. But nothing guaranteed that these spirits would be benevolent. In order to keep these spirits in line, the Druids came up with these hideous masks and decorated their robes with all types of occult symbols to control these demonic spirits, if you would. And you know, this is where you get your costumes for trick-or-treating from. Let's face it, it comes straight with the mask and the outfit to this very day. And yet, we've allowed this into the church. I mean, be honest, people, before God right now, be honest. How many of you have ever gone to a Halloween party at a local church? Raise your hand. Be honest here. There's nothing wrong with it, I mean, as far as being honest goes. Now, the thing is, and I'm going to hear so much for what I'm about to say, but then again, let's face it, a lot of time the truth just isn't popular. Those people who go to a Christian church and have a Halloween party, they're open hypocrites. That's exactly what they are. And that's a tough thing for a lot of people to swallow. Because this is a fun thing. This is supposed to be nothing but fun. And yet, you know, there's actually a group that's actually worse than that. Many of the Celtic people, those in the tribes and the various clans, could not attend the Samhain festival and a lot of these religious holidays because of the distance that they lived away from these temple complexes. What they did, they would hold the exact same ceremony, except the Druid priests weren't able to preside over it. Instead of calling it Samhain, those Celtic warriors called it a harvest festival. Now, how many of us have ever gone to a church where there has been a harvest festival? Those people doing the harvest festival, they're the closet hypocrites. I mean, bad enough being open about it, but being a closet hypocrite about it, I mean, really. But that's exactly what's going on. We've given it this wonderful Christian air. We've even gone so far as to tell the kids, it's okay if you wear a costume that has Moses or Ruth or Mary or whoever. It is not all right. When the Bible said, learn not to do the way of the heathen, do you think God was just taking up space? We have got to make up our minds one way or the other to commit ourselves for Christ or not to. Those are the only two choices we have. Because when you look at the 3rd chapter of the book of Revelation, it talks about a curse that's upon our church age, and that's known as the Laodicean church age. The Laodicean Christians, for the most part, are just lukewarm at best. And those are fence walkers. A fence walker is just walking the mark, and he's not committing one way or the other. How can God bless a person who won't make up his mind one way or the other? This is what it comes down to. And didn't Hosea himself say that my people die for a lack of knowledge? Well, I think we're getting a fair amount of knowledge right now, but the question is, what are you going to do with it? This is what you have to ask yourselves. And as I said before, this is not a popular topic of discussion. Let's face it. How many of us have gone out, we've celebrated Christmas, we've gone Easter egg hunting, many of us. Halloween, harvest festivals, and trust me, I'm not done yet. But this is popular stuff. But since when did Christ tell us we're here for popularity points? We're not here for that reason. We're here for one and only one purpose, and that's to fulfill the Great Commission, to go out there, preach the gospel of salvation, and get these people saved. But how is that going to be possible if our own houses need to be cleaned up? We want God to shed his blessings from on high. We want God to use us. How can we honestly expect God to do that if we're doing the exact same thing the heathens are doing? In the occult world, nothing has changed. And this is more than 5,000 years old. And if my pastor, Bruce Wilson, was here right now, he would be looking at me and wondering what's getting into me. See, I have a deadly fear that one of these days God may call me into, the ministry to become a preacher. No. My gift is in teaching, and I'm just praying God never does that to me. Don't get me wrong. Preachers are some of the nicest people on God's earth. You should make a friend of them. But it just isn't my gift. It really isn't. But the truth is, really, how are we ever going to be used of God if we don't clean up our own houses first? There is just so much that we, and again, here I go, people, that we would love to blame other people for doing. Oh, do you see what that person has done? Oh, don't go near, my children can't play with that girl because her parents or her does this and that. I think we should start pointing the finger here first. Christ said, don't worry about the little sliver or the mote that is in their eyes. Worry about the 4x4 that is in yours right now. Then you'll be able to see spiritually to help them. Now, what could possibly be so harmful or occultic about St. Valentine's Day? It's a day set aside for lovers, isn't it? That's what it's known as. It's the holidays of lovers, correct? If you recall, remember how I told you, Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, they were the first family of the occult. The occult beliefs did not change. All that happened when it went to the next culture, just the names changed. The beliefs remained the same. If you go back, you can actually trace all this stuff. Now, with Valentine's Day, notice how this is exactly 13 days after the human night sacrifice of Imbolc. This is nothing but a complete camouflage for an ancient fertility ritual. Now, how many of us have seen this cute little boy before? It's a little difficult to see, but this is Cupid throwing an arrow at his victim known as Psyche. See, Cupid, according to all the legends, he was not a bare-bottomed little cherub just shooting arrows. He was a troublemaker. He got in trouble with the gods themselves, And he himself, as I said it, boy, did he get into a lot of trouble. But Cupid, if you check this very carefully, according to the legends, was the son of Venus. Originally, his name was Tammuz. Remember, he's the son of Semiramis. Venus, originally, is the daughter of Jupiter. Well, Semiramis was the wife of Nimrod. Now, this here is the famous rendition that's known as the Venus de Milo. It was found in Milo, Italy. This is the fertility goddess. This is the big brouhaha, what St. Valentine's Day is also about. It is nothing but the reenactment, as I stated, of the ancient fertility rites. Because, continuing on, you find out Jupiter himself, according to all the myths, was the head god of the pantheon. He was the sun god. Nimrod of Babylon was declared to be the sun god. And if you notice, once it got into Egypt, what was Ra known as? The sun god. It didn't change. Only the names did. That's it. And during this festival of Valentine, there would be a lot of drunkenness going on. There would be sexual orgies going on. And the two most famous sacrifices that people would bring to the temple, to the goddess, was sweets such as candies and spring flowers. And isn't that what we're doing to this very day? How many of those candy stores are making a killing, let alone the floral shops? This is the exact recreation of that ancient fertility ritual. And mind you, back then they had a symbol that they used for this ceremony, and it was the human heart. The reason it was the heart was because the heart represented the seat of all emotions, including love. And to this very day, we will reenact this ancient occult ceremony, and we won't even think twice about it. Now, this one is one of my favorites. Groundhog's Day. What could be so occultic or harmful about a groundhog? Well, first of all, groundhog is celebrated on the night of what's known as Imbolgan, the occult. It's the night of human sacrifice. But did you know that the groundhog has great metaphysical powers? He can divine the future. You take this creature, you hold him up in the air, you look down. If his shadow is there, you're going to have a long winter. Well, if you're still holding him up there and you look down and there's no shadow, he's your friend now because you're going to have a short winter. This cute little fellow that they're constantly using every year that you see on TV, that's Punxsutawney Phil. Punxsutawney Phil has the ability to tell not only the future, but the weather better than the weatherman. Anyways, oh, by the way, how many of you had ever seen that movie, Groundhog's Day? You want to talk about reincarnation and what it's all about? Anyway, the groundhog itself is a perfect representation of the spring goddess. We're going to do a comparison in a minute. But over here, we see a young maiden, a mature woman, and an old lady. These three ladies represent the three stages of the Earth Mother's life. She comes in as a young maiden. May 1st, she matures into the Earth Mother, and around October, she goes into what's known as the Old Crone. This is what's known as the maid, the mother, and the crone. This represents the three facets of the Earth Mother. Now, when we take a look at the groundhog and compare it to the Earth Mother, you're going to find that there is no difference. You see, the Earth Goddess, when her time is over and the stag god comes in, she goes into the earth and sleeps until the spring. Isn't this what the groundhog does? He goes into the earth and he hibernates. The Earth Goddess is sleeping in between two specific periods of time, winter and spring. Isn't that exactly what the groundhog is doing? Work with me here. Nod, yes. Don't force me to get desperate. The goddess is known as an earth creature. This is why she is referred to as the Earth Mother. Isn't the groundhog also an earth creature? The Earth Goddess will only begin to reawaken during springtime. That's when she begins to come back into power. That's when she begins to come back as that young maiden. Isn't that when the groundhog also begins to come back? The goddess completes the cycle of the year, or what's also known as reincarnation. Isn't that what the groundhog is doing? And the Earth Goddess, every year, she represents rebirth and renewal. And this is exactly what the groundhog represents. Can you see, when you take them and compare them side by side, step by step, all the way through the belief system, that there is no difference? This is why Groundhog became an American holiday, because it was an occult one first. And all that they did, as usual, was Americanize it and put it right in your calendar. Mind you, right on the human night sacrifice of what is known in the occult as Imbolg. Now this next one, again, it seems harmless on the surface. How many people, of course, have ever heard of May Day? Of course. Now, May Day itself, on the surface, again, it looks harmless. A lot of people just think it's another time just to come together, share some old times with some old friends, do some dancing, some drinking, what we not. We look at the top of this particular transparency. What are those people doing? Right, they're dancing around the maypole. But what people, first of all, don't realize, you see, first of all, this is on May 1st, what's known as Beltane. Let me explain Beltane to you. B-E-L, or what's known as Baal. You will find the word Baal and Bel in the Bible, both of them. Constantly throughout the Old Testament, where God told you not to have anything to do with Baal worship. Baal worship is the recreation in the occult now of certain fertility rituals. Remember, Baal, this is just, again, another countercultural name for Nimrod. He had many names as it spread throughout different cultures. Now, once again, I'm going to try to put this as tactfully as I can. But you've got to know the truth about this. That maypole is nothing but a phallic symbol. It's for this reason that the people on the ground are dancing around in that familial circle again. It represents the female reproductive organs. This is a mating fertility ritual. You will notice, now those streamers that are coming down are usually a good 6 feet in length. Most of the time it's red and white, though other people will do different colors, but that's okay. Because the men, they're dancing around in a clockwise fashion. That's known in the occult as widowshins. The women, they're dancing in the counterclockwise fashion, which is known as dielsol. And if you notice, because of this, those ribbons are intertwining, correct, around the maypole. This shows the unification of the sexual organs and the act of procreation itself. That's all that May Day is. This is just a recreation of an ancient fertility ritual that still goes on in the occult today. This lady down here, this is the earth goddess. This is her in her full blossom now. She is a mature woman, and again, she is a fertility goddess. That's why on May Day you have this fertility ritual. Now, this one seems so harmless. This last one we're going to be covering. What can possibly be so wrong about being Irish for a day? St. Patrick's Day, correct? What could possibly be so wrong about it? What could be so against our Christianity that we shouldn't have a thing to do with it? Well, first of all, if you know anything about the myths, the leprechaun was a demonic imp. He was an elf. Now, I hunted high and low for the best drawing of an elf I could come up with. And I think the one I found is absolutely adorable. Isn't he a cute little fella? I mean, he looks like a Keebler elf. Yeah. You know? But he is green for a reason, because he's an earth creature. This is why you see all the green in St. Patrick's Day. It represents nature. This is a nature-oriented occult ceremony with the holidays that go with it. He is always seen with a cauldron filled with gold coins, correct? I'm going to tell you something that just may really upset some of you. Back during the days of Babylon and the Egyptian Empire, the people were worshiping, and you'll find this in the Bible, a particular pagan god known as Moloch. Moloch was usually depicted as a giant bronze demonic statue with 2 horns, and he would have his hands outstretched over a fire pit. Parents, in order to receive financial blessings from Moloch, would take their own infants and place them on those white, hot hands. And if the children were old enough to walk, they would take the child and throw him into the fire pit. All this because they wanted to receive a financial blessing from their god known as Moloch. It's for this reason that why this demonic creature has that pot of gold. And I'm going to tie this in with these 2 items. Down here, how many people is familiar with this particular item here? It's known as a shillelagh, right? Think about this. Remember how I told you everything, occultically speaking, you can find as far as a reversal or a counterfeit from the Holy Scriptures? What could that shillelagh be a counterfeit of? What was that?
Moses' stuff.
Aaron's rod, exactly. Aaron's rod held great power in it. The shillelagh is where the leprechaun's entire power is held. It is stated, if you have his shillelagh, you control the leprechaun. Remember the design of the Tower of Babylon, how it spiraled? And remember how at the top I told you that there was the temples running through it? Moloch would bless the people through finances, right? It's from this you get the common symbol that's known as the Italian horn. The Italian horn itself spirals like the Tower of Babylon, and you ask anyone who wears it, they say, I wear it for financial blessings and for good luck. Isn't that what you've heard about it? That's where you get it from. It came first from the shillelagh. The shillelagh was a counterfeit of the rod of Aaron, and they took that symbol and made it after the fashion of the Tower of Babylon. This is how it all came into being. We like to boast to people that we are a Christian people. We are God's children. And yet, when we are honest with ourselves, our practices as far as any of these holidays will say the opposite. Those in the occult, those who worship Lucifer or Satan, whatever you want to call him, whatever occult religion these people are involved in, they're the ones who created all these occult holidays. They continue to this very day. Let's face it. We have Christmas, we have Easter, we have Halloween, we have May Day, St. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, so on and so forth. We really have to make up our minds, folks. Hosea once again said, my people are dying for a lack of knowledge. Well, the thing is, you've got the knowledge now. The question is, what are you going to do with it? We want to say that we're committed Christians, but are we committed to God, or should we just be committed? These are not going to be easy things to tackle. Then again, let's be honest, God never promised you an easy life. He said he would give you the strength to make it one day after another. Are you going to keep practicing these holidays? I'm going to hope you don't. I can't tell you not to, because if I just tell you right now, you can't do this anymore, I would be stepping on your free will. God gave each and every single one of you free will, the ability to choose. For me to force you into not doing it would be doing something God himself wouldn't do. If you ever notice, God won't step on anyone's free will. If he wanted people without free will, well, these couldn't be people who could love him. They would just be robots, wouldn't they? But God gave us free will so that, among other things, we could freely choose to love him. But again, as we're saying, all this is going to have to come down to your choice. Are you going to continue to practice these occult holidays? Because that's what they are. You can ask anyone in the occult. Go to an occult bookstore or find a witch or even a Satanist. And after you witness to them, ask them about them. They'll tell you. Some of you may be able to just stop it just like that. God be praised if you could. Some of you may have to try to do this slowly. Because let's face it, a lot of this has very deep roots into our lives and into our traditions. Scripture tells us in Romans 14, we're not supposed to be putting one day above another. It's never supposed to be like that. And do you know that birthdays were actually started in the occult before any of you had them? In the occult realm, the birthday of an individual is considered the highest day for their life because their god, Lucifer, gave them life. Even though we know that isn't true, but try to explain this to them. But this is actually how birthdays came about. It's important to remember, not one day is supposed to be put above another. Do you know that when Christ was teaching on the Decalogue, or the Ten Commandments, 9 of them he told us we should observe. One of them he said, you don't have to worry about. Does anyone know what that one was by any chance?
Sabbath.
The Sabbath, exactly. You're never supposed to worry about the Sabbath day again. And the reason is Christ said, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. You're supposed to be worshiping me every day of your life. It is not a go to church on Friday or Saturday or Sunday and get your fix. This is 7 days a week, love Christ. Not one day is supposed to be put above another. Not one day is just supposed to be set aside where you say, okay, I'm going to love Christ today, do his things as he said, and then for the next 6 days, live like I'm back in the world again. These are tough things, people. They're very popular. And I honestly wish I could just get every single one of you to just do something about it. But I can't. I don't have the authority, and even if I did, I still couldn't because I'd be stepping on your free will. But you've got to take all this information, go to your dear Heavenly Father, and you pray like you've never prayed about it before. Because I'll tell you right now, when I was in the Illuminati, I not only learned this, but I learned more things than what you can imagine, to where I can tell you right now, the New World Order is coming down the pipeline quicker than even what you've been told. And unless you're prepared as true Christians who's willing to stand up and be counted, I'm going to promise you right here and now, you're going to be bowled over and there's nothing you can do about it. Remember, an educated person can't be taken over because they see it coming and they know what they're doing. However, an ignorant person doesn't see it coming, and he won't know what hits him till it's too late. The choice is up to you. Are you going to worship God all out, 100%? Are you only going to worship him part of the way and stay as maybe a Laodicean Christian? Are some of you just happy in your Christian comfort zones? Because let's face it, those Christian comfort zones, people, hey, they keep us from getting involved, don't they? They keep us from getting our fingers dirty, our knees from getting scraped. It's a wonderful thing to have. But I don't remember one of the apostles having them. I don't remember one of the regular disciples having them. Think about what you've been told tonight. I'm honestly praying it not only convicts you, but it causes you to truly dedicate yourselves to a 100% sold out mindset to where this is how you're going to serve Christ for the rest of your life. I'm going to turn over to Stan, and truly, people, I do ask God blesses you and that you do make a wise decision.
If you've been forgiven,